Hi, I'm Chris Garreau. I'm a CBC journalist based here in Steinbach, Manitoba. I love the people, I love the culture. I love that it's a fast-growing and very interesting city with something new to do and find out about every day. I'm originally from a different area of the province. There's so many people like me who moved here for opportunity and have just come to call it home. I would say it is a great opportunity. You get to do everything. You're doing radio, you're doing web writing, you're doing video TV. You are getting out there. It's an opportunity for people to hear your work, see your work, read your work. In the big cities, a lot of the time, the news leads you. In the smaller communities, you go find that news. It means a lot to the people here who've always felt like, of course, the big cities get all the attention, and they want to be able to hear their stories told. There is a lot of responsibility, but also a lot of freedom in that you've set your day, you know what you're doing, but you're still connected. You're always connected to everybody in the main bureau in Winnipeg. I really enjoy having that ability to be responsible for my own schedule and get the work done that I need to get done in a way that is very independent, but with always that help, just a quick phone call or G-chat away. I completely recommend it. I mean, you're going to be out there and this is your opportunity.
Hello, welcome. I'm pleased to welcome you today to this session all about new job opportunities here at CBC News on the Prairies. So you just heard there from Chris Garreau. He's one of our CBC journalists already working in one of our small bureaus. And we're going to talk today about how CBC is hiring more jobs just like his. My name is Stephanie Coombs. I'm the Director of Journalism and Programming for CBC Edmonton. So that means I oversee all of our staff and coverage here in Edmonton and across central northern Alberta. I'm speaking to you today as I'm working with my colleagues in Saskatchewan and Manitoba as we recruit 10 positions across the prairies. It's an exciting time for CBC News, and we are extending our reach to serve more communities. And so we're looking for more great people to join our team. So thank you for joining us today. During our time, I'll give you a brief outline of the jobs available, what kinds of people we're looking for, and what you could expect if you're hired. But then we want to make sure that you get your questions answered. And you can do that in two different ways. The first is you can comment directly here in the video. You need to be signed into a YouTube account to do that, to actually comment. If you're not signed into a YouTube account, you can send your questions to us by email. And that email address is newsjobs@cbc.ca. So we'll try to get through those questions during our time together. So what's going on? Why are we here today? Well, we are hiring up to 10 multi-platform journalists in 8 locations across Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. 5 of these are new locations and 3 are existing. These are permanent full-time roles, and they're based in the communities in which we're hiring. The communities are places where we think we need to better establish or expand our footprint, where we want to tell more stories and reach more people. We are doing information sessions like this because we want to get the word out to as many people as possible, to potential candidates. So where specifically are we hiring? Well, we are hiring in Alberta. So, I see. Thanks. I'm going to pause and note that Justin is in the background giving me these great cues. We are hiring in Alberta in Grand Prairie, Hinton, and Lloydminster. We are hiring in Saskatchewan in North Battle Fords, Moose Jaw, Swift Current, and Yorkton. And we are hiring in Manitoba in the Selkirk Interlake region. So these are all in 1- or 2-person bureaus. So as Chris mentioned a little bit, you operate quite independently, but you have a team supporting you at your home station. So all the bureaus have a home station. For example, Moose Jaw would report into the Regina station. Lloydminster reports into the Edmonton station. So you have a team supporting you. But as I mentioned, you need to be in that community. These are not remote jobs. This is critical for our goal to meet people where they are and to reflect their stories and their issues. One of the big questions people always ask is, what are the jobs going to be like? Well, so you are going to be working as a journalist in one of these locations, covering news and current affairs from that community for all of our CBC News platforms. As I mentioned, you'll report to your home station. And that's where your producers and support staff generally will be. That's where your content will come from. So for example, the reporters in Hinton report into our Edmonton station, and their content appears on Edmonton's programs and platforms. Your job is to pitch story ideas and then research and gather and produce those stories for all of our platforms. The platforms that we currently have and we are publishing to are digital. So that's our website and our news app. Social, we are currently using YouTube and TikTok. Audio, so we have radio newscasts, current affairs radio programs, and podcasts. And visuals, our TV newscasts and streaming. So your producer will be at your home station, and every day you'll check in with that person pitching your ideas. Together, you'll decide on what you'll work on. Sometimes that might be a story for that day. Sometimes it might be something that takes a few days. That's what happens in journalism, of course. Also breaking news. So you'll be responsible for covering breaking news in that area. Key to your job is building and developing working relationships with community members, and of course, collaborating with your other CBC colleagues, whether at that home station or in other small bureaus in the prairies. What kinds of stories will you be covering? That's a critical question that many people ask. And from our small bureaus, we want to focus on stories that reflect the things happening in those communities, but that are interesting and relevant to a provincial and national audience. So it's less about maybe some day-to-day updates about traffic or things like that, and more about the things and issues that people are talking about and that affect them deeply. What are their concerns, their successes, their issues? And critically, what are the angles on big stories that are out there that we need to be telling them through a smaller lens, the lens of a smaller community? So I think they're about things like policing issues or affordability, rental housing, access to medical care, climate issues. These are all stories that we tell nationally, provincially, and locally. And it's important for us to get the perspective of smaller communities on these big major issues as well. So in terms of experience, we are looking for people who do have experience in daily multi-platform journalism. It would be great if you had experience in all digital visuals and audio, but we know that everyone doesn't, and we will train people up to do that. That would set you apart, certainly, if you do have experience in all of those platforms. But what we're looking for is people who have done that kind of daily journalism and with a multi-platform lens. Familiarity with CBC would also be an asset. That doesn't mean that you have to currently work here. What it certainly means is understanding CBC, kinds of news CBC covers, how we cover them, like on what platforms. So understanding what we do on a CBC News TikTok would be helpful. So things we're looking for. People with a lot of initiative, problem-solving skills, can operate independently, people who are self-motivated and maybe have lived somewhere smaller. Are you familiar with a smaller community? Have you grown up somewhere else? Have you lived somewhere else? It can be a bit challenging if you move from a major urban metro center to a smaller community. It's just a different vibe. And so sometimes people find that if they've lived somewhere smaller, it sets them up for success. We're certainly looking for people who love to get out of the newsroom. So they're meeting new people, they're curious, they have story ideas, they want to find the story. I think Chris said something in that video about sometimes in big urban centers, the news comes to you. And when you're in a smaller community, you have more latitude to go find that story. And we certainly have found that true. We are also looking for people who have great communication skills. Your producers and your team will be in another location, so you have to be really adept at communicating with folks. And also so critical, relationship building skills. As I mentioned, the vast majority of these bureaus are 1- and 2-person places. They are locations that CBC hasn't had a large footprint before. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of earning the trust of those communities, in terms of building relationships and connecting with people. And so if that kind of excites you, then that's certainly going to set you up for success. So I'm just going to pause to remind you, I see some people talking in the chat about where they're from, and that's awesome. Please also, if you have questions, that's where you want to put them, is in the chat, or to email us at newsjobs@cbc.ca. One of the questions that was just there up on the screen, is this a development opportunity or something for a seasoned journalist? And my answer is usually both. there's two sort of questions, possibilities there. If you're a newer journalist, moving to a smaller community would give you opportunities to own a beat, right? That community is your beat. It would give you an opportunity to own something and do original journalism, which you may or may not get if you were in a major market. There's more competition for stories in a big newsroom. So you'd always be the first person on the ground if there's a breaking news story. So, getting your foot in the door, these are great opportunities. I would say it's good to have a couple of years of experience in a newsroom, a bigger newsroom, in some way, where you're working closely with people, since you'll be working remotely. Understanding how a newsroom is important, how it works is important. But on the other hand, maybe you're a seasoned journalist who is from a smaller community and never thought, oh, I could work in that community. I could have a meaningful job in the place that I'm from. This is your chance to live and work where maybe you're from, or maybe you want to make a lifestyle change from the big city. Things are not as affordable in large cities. So you can bring all your strong skills to the job and lean into that autonomy that you might get in a smaller bureau. So training. There is quite a robust plan that we put through when we bring people in when they start the job and we bring them in for training. Definitely we do training on all our CBC systems, right? Every place is different. We have certain systems and that sort of thing, and you have to figure out how to use our tools and all that kind of stuff. So we do training like that. We certainly also do training on all of the platforms, how to file and in video and radio and things like that. Generally, what we do in these positions is we bring people to their home station for a few weeks to start the job. This way they get to meet all of the people that they'll be chatting to on the phone or on video calls like this. So they get to meet with them and work with them in person. And we will practice doing remote filing in the kind of systems that we have, that you would have from the smaller community. That training also includes understanding of just how CBC uses systems and understanding of our journalistic ethics and standards. So it's usually quite robust. In the past, that has varied around stations, how long people come to the home station, but anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, you could expect to be in the home station to get a good grounding in how things work before we send you out to the community where you'll be living and working. I'm just going to pause to see if there's any more questions. Perfect. Application process. How do you apply? So if you go to cbc.ca/workwithus, that's probably where you saw the link to sign up for this session. So you should be familiar with that. But at cbc.ca/workwithus, there's information about the jobs that we're hiring. And there's a link to all of the, first of all, there's a link to the communities that we're hiring in, so if you're not as familiar with them. But then there's also links to send you into our formal application system, the job postings. And when you do that, make sure you use your cover letter to tell us why you're interested in those locations. Some of you might be applying for multiple places. Maybe you're only applying for one. Either is fine. But please use please take your opportunity to explain to us why those places interest you. We want to get to know you and understand what's motivating you to apply for these jobs. What if you previously worked for? Yes, absolutely, you can reapply. That would probably set you up for some good success if you already know some of the systems and how CBC works. So absolutely, you can reapply. Yes, you can apply to all of them or one of them. That is entirely up to you, the number of locations that you wish to apply for. As I mentioned, do let us know, though, why you're choosing those locations, what interests you about them, why would you be applying there? That helps us understand your motivation for sure. So what are the work hours? Generally speaking, these jobs are, I'm going to say Monday to Friday. They're not always Monday to Friday. Generally speaking, they're Monday to Friday, day jobs. But there's a lot of latitude to work with your producers, to modify your schedule, to be able to cover something on a weekend or on an evening that is important to your beat, to your location. So that is the opportunity that you have, is to say, oh, there's that city council meeting here is going to go late tomorrow night. I think I'd like to work a little bit later. You work on that with your producer. So we're flexible in terms of the schedule in order to make sure we're covering everything. Will CBC cover costs associated? No, we don't cover costs associated with traveling or moving to the new locations, that would be up to you if you're not currently based there. However, quite frequently, every few months, generally, and that certainly depends on how far and close you are to your home station, you could expect to be coming back to your home station for either more training, for just a chance to meet more people and work together. And so that CBC would pay for that if we ask you to come work out of the home station. And generally speaking, we will. And so CBC does cover those sorts of things too. We've worked in broadcast with currently foreign national. Do you hire foreign nationals? So we do not. We don't process work permits, so we don't sponsor foreign nationals to apply. If you are able on your own to work in Canada, then absolutely, you don't have to be Canadian. If you have a work permit, we do not sponsor work permits. We have worked in the newsroom. Yeah, I think certainly we've hired people with only digital experience. Certainly we've hired people with only broadcast experience. Absolutely. Journalism is journalism, right? If you're a good journalist and a critical thinker and a strong storyteller, then absolutely we can teach you how to translate those skills into writing for audio or writing for visuals if you just have print or digital experience. So for sure, I would encourage you to apply. This is a question we get a lot, and it's a really hard question to answer because it's so different. I would say that the one thing that's the same every day is that you check in with a producer and you say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing, or as we talked about yesterday, this is what I'd like to do. But then it really depends on what you guys have decided your day would be. And so in these bureau jobs, as I mentioned, it's less about reacting to, there's been a car crash, unless it's something significant, and more about covering issues. So generally speaking, you should have a good idea when you start your day what likely you're going to be working on, unless there's that big breaking news. But that's, going out and gathering, interviewing people, writing scripts, writing stories, packaging stories together, depending on which platforms you're doing. Maybe you're doing what we call a talk tape or a tape talk, depends on which one of our stations you're in. And that's when you, as a reporter, come on one of our current affairs radio shows and explain your story, kind of like a debrief. So there's all sorts of stuff that you could be doing. You may also be spending a day working on community engagement and outreach. You may say to your producers, hey, I really need a day to set up like some coffee meetings because I need to meet some more people. And so maybe that's what you're to some more folks to make connections and get some story ideas. So you have a lot of, as Chris mentioned there in his video, you do have a lot of independence, and you're working with your producer to decide the best use of your. So just seeing if we have any other questions. One question we get, do you consider candidates who have strong storytelling communication skills but do not have formal journalism experience? Yes, and then I'll add a but. Yes, we do, absolutely. But it is a little bit challenging to move from storytelling and communication into daily multi-platform journalism when you're in a more independent space. We would be more likely to consider people with that kind of experience if you were coming into one of our bigger newsrooms where you would get a sense of how daily journalism works and the workflow and how everything is going. And it's just a bit harder if you're in a remote bureau. And I don't mean remote as it's super far away. Some of them are farther away, but remote from the main station. I'm not discouraging you from applying, but I think when you're making your application, you want to show your understanding of daily journalism. And if you haven't done it, what's your understanding of it and what are your transferable skills? Been around camera settings, not journalism. Are these skills transferable? Yes, absolutely. If you understand, certainly you said you have experience in print journalism, and if you have understanding of visual gathering, I'm assuming, right? And how video works, absolutely, that would be helpful for you, and a transferable skill, understanding how another platform works. One of the biggest things in understanding a different platform is often the technology, and it sounds like you might have some knowledge there. So for sure. Yes, I do have tips for for applications and interviews. As I mentioned, well, first I would say, number one, make sure you include a cover letter. I can't stress this enough. For any job you're applying for, include a cover letter and take that cover letter, the opportunity of that cover letter, to tell us a bit about how to help us imagine you in this job. If you think about a cover letter and a resume, your resume is showing us what you can do, what you've done, right? Like, I can see your skills and your experience. Your cover letter is an opportunity to tell us a bit about why you're interested in the job. Maybe, as we've just talked a little bit about, how you see your skills transferring to this role. Ultimately, you want me or whoever else is the hiring manager for whatever job it is to read the cover letter and imagine you in the job. I can feel you know the place, or you know the job, you understand what it is, and you understand how your skills and experience would transfer to there. So absolutely, you write a cover letter for sure, and to have it do something slightly different than your resume, so it's a good package together. Oftentimes in an application, I also suggest to people, often people say, here's a link to my website. That's less useful to me as a hiring manager if you think I get dozens of applications looking at everybody's websites. What I often encourage people to do is think of maybe 3 to 5 pieces that you are particularly proud of. And so give me links to those and tell me why you're particularly proud of them. If you just give me your website, I'm going to look at I'm going to look at it. It's going to be a lot. I won't know something that you have invested a lot of time and energy in. And so it's important if you help me out. Give me a couple words or a couple sentences on why that story, piece, whatever it might be, was something that stands out for you. And then on your interview, interviews at CBC, I'll give you some information about how those work. Generally, they're a panel interview. Sometimes that's surprising to people, so I'm telling you now. Oftentimes, that's like about 3 people who are going to interview you. And a lot of the questions are going to be looking at how you work, asking you questions about things that have gone well for you before, things that haven't gone well for you, where you've seen success, where you've see an opportunity for yourself to grow. So I always encourage people, when they're preparing for an interview, to think of examples that they can bring forward that show to us how they work, and how maybe they've overcome obstacles and things like that. What's the compensation? Good question. We are hiring 2 different jobs, actually. If you're eagle-eyed, you might have noticed that. Most of the jobs we're hiring are reporters. The one position we're hiring in Grand Prairie is called a video journalist, and that has a higher expectation of video gathering and packaging and producing than the reporters do. All of CBC's salaries are unionized, and it's the Canadian Media Guild. So I encourage you just to go on the Canadian Media Guild's website, and you can see the salary scale for every job at CBC. If you're applying for these jobs or other jobs, it would give you some information on what those salary scales are. And people often ask me after compensation, what about benefits and things like that? These are permanent full-time jobs, and so they do come with benefits, health benefits, dental, life insurance, all those sorts of things, as well as a pension plan. And so as a permanent full-time employee, you would be enrolled in all of those things. It's quite a comprehensive benefits and pension package. And I'm just pausing to let I know that Jane and Justin are the folks working in the background, and they're probably feverishly giving me questions. And I'm just going to pause to let them catch up and see if there's any more questions that we haven't answered yet. Wondering about CBC's current connections to these communities. Do they exist at all? Will there be any kind of introductions made? Very good question. In some of the locations that we're hiring for, the 3 locations in Alberta, Grand Prairie, Hinton, and Lloydminster, we already have 1 journalist based there in our bureau. We're hiring a 2nd person. In the locations we're hiring in Saskatchewan, that's Yorkton, Swift Current, Moose Jaw, and North Battle Ford, we currently do not have journalists based, nor do we have any in Selkirk, Interlake, and Manitoba. So in the Alberta ones, we already have some connections made because we already have people there. Your role will be to increase those connections and to help expand that. In the Saskatchewan and Manitoba positions, there will be more work involved in terms of making connections, reaching out to people. We do have a great communications and marketing department that works with us to help us create events and programming and listening sessions like editorial boards, things like that, that help us get to know the communities better. So you won't be on your own. It certainly will be part of your role, but you're not on your own in making those connections. If you don't meet every requirement, still believe you could be a good fit, are you still encouraged to apply? Yes, absolutely. If you think you'd be a good fit, please do apply, and tell us in that cover letter why you think you are. Look, a job description, I would tell you that never do we expect every person who applies to fulfill every single thing on that list. That would be great if they did, but that's not the case. So absolutely, if you think you'd be a great fit but don't fulfill everything, please apply. Let us know in that cover letter why. So yes, do that. And when do the positions start? That's going to depend on, oftentimes we try to have people start sort of at the same time so we can bring in a new cohort together. So it's probably not going to be for, I'm going to say, a couple of months, and it's a little bit tentative just based on when we can get folks to start together. It's a better experience if people can start together and have learning and orientation together to build a bit of a team. So in, when we think about Alberta, likely we would try to have some of those folks start at the same time, but at least I would say a couple of months. There's not a firm date, if that answers your question. Excellent. I think this is our last question, so I will answer this one, but if you have anything else, this is your time before we wrap up. So I think we answered this one, Justin. We will cover costs associated to if you come back and forth between our stations, and during that kind of onboarding time at the home station, absolutely we'd cover your costs, but you are responsible for, if you're not already located in that community, to move there. Excuse me. All right. I think that's it. I think those are all our questions. If after today you did have a question and you thought, oh my gosh, I have another question. Oh, snuck it in there. No, you don't require a car. I'm going to suggest that in some of these communities, that would be a common mode of transportation for you personally, and you may want to own a car, but you have a CBC vehicle that you can use for work. Going to your assignments and all those things, absolutely. We provide you with a vehicle, and just to preempt the next question, and a laptop and a phone and the equipment that you need, absolutely. So we do provide that, but you may need a personal vehicle to get yourself around in that community. So I will sign off. If you have questions that you think of afterwards, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can do that at newsjobs@cbc.ca. We're happy to answer questions about these jobs, or if you had a question about another job at CBC, we could direct you to the right place to ask that question as well. So that's newsjobs@cbc.ca. So thank you so much for joining us today and for your interest in working with CBC. And hopefully we see some of these names that we've seen here in the chat in our application pool. So thanks so much. Bye-bye.